Good evening. I am not afraid to say this. I believe America should come first. I believe our workers should come first. Our families should come first. And our communities should come first. If believing that means loving our nation enough to protect it, strengthen it, and invest in it, then yes, some people might call that nationalism. But I call it common sense. And through that common sense, my opinion became one of a patriot, a citizen who cherished the freedom of man and the triumph of the nation. This transformation was not the product of mere circumstance or fleeting emotion, but a deliberate embrace of a profound truth that the soul of a nation resides in its people, bound by shared blood, soil, and destiny. In the swirling chaos of our modern age, where global forces erode the very foundations of sovereignty, nationalism emerges as the eternal guardian of identity. It is a philosophy that asserts the primacy of one's own kin, the unyielding commitment to preserve the cultural hearth against the encroachments of alien influences. Why nationalism? Because without it, a people dissolve into a formless mass, stripped of purpose and pride. It is the reason we must prioritize our workers, our traditions, our future, over the abstract ideals of universalism that serve only to dilute and divide. In this current climate of uncertainty, where borders blur and loyalties fragment, nationalism offers the philosophical anchor, a belief that true strength flows from unity within, not diffusion without. It teaches us that love for one's nation is not hatred of others, but the natural order of human affiliation, rooted in the evolutionary imperatives of survival and continuity. This awakening compels us to reject the siren call of globalism, which masks exploitation under the guise of harmony. The philosophy here is clear. Nations are organic entities forged through struggle and shared heritage, not artificial constructs to be reshaped at the whim of elites. Nationalism posits that every people has the right to self-determination, to chart its course free from external domination. In our present era, marked by economic dislocations and cultural upheavals, this means reclaiming the reins of destiny from those who would surrender them to supranational entities. The reason behind this stance is simple. Human flourishing depends on rootedness, on belonging to a community that mirrors one's values and aspirations. Without nationalism, we invite the erosion of morale, the loss of collective will, leading to a society adrift, vulnerable to manipulation and decay. And second, I learned to understand and grasp the true meaning of history. History is not a neutral chronicle of events, but rather it is a living testament to the eternal struggle of peoples for preservation and for power. It reveals patterns, the rise of empires through unity and resolve, their fall through division and complacency. Only today, when a tragic fate has torn several millions of our kinsfolk away from the nation and forced them to live under the rule of the stranger, dreaming of that common motherland, toward which all their yearnings are directed and struggling to uphold at least the sacred right to use their home tongue. Only now have the wider circles of the American population come to realize what it means to have to fight for the traditions of one's life, The philosophy embedded in this realization is that history is cyclical, driven by the clash of wills between nations and ideologies. In our present day and age, and in our current climate, where migrations and integrations challenge the status and the homogeneity of societies, we see the reasons unfold. The loss of linguistic and cultural cohesion leads to fragmentation, weakening the natural fabric. History teaches us and lays plainly for all to see that languages are not mere tools of communication, but rather are vessels of worldview itself, carrying the essence of a people's thought and spirit. To defend the home tongue is to defend the mind of the nation against assimilationists, pressures that seek to homogenize diversity into oblivion. This fight is spiritual and philosophical at its core. It affirms that true diversity exists between nations and not within them, where it breeds conflict and confusion. The current climate amplifies this, as rapid changes force us to confront the erosion of our foundational narratives, compelling a return to historical wisdom for guidance. Even in the schools, this sifting has already begun. And it is worth noting that the struggle for the language was waged, perhaps in its bitterest form, around the school, because this was the very nursery where the seeds had to be watered so they would spring up and form the future generation. The tactical objective of the fight was to win over the child, and the body concerned must be made to understand that education is the battleground for the soul and health of the nation. Philosophically, schools are not neutral institutions, but are forges of identity, where ideologies implant their roots. In the United States of America today, in our present climate, where competing visions vie for dominance, the reason to prioritize national traditions and curricula is to ensure the nation's continuity. Without this, generations grow alienated from their heritage and susceptible to foreign doctrines that undermine loyalty and allegiance to the United States as a whole. The outlook here is one of stewardship, that we owe it to the posterity to transmit unadulterated the values that sustain our forebears. This struggle underscores that true education cultivates patriots, not rootless cosmopolitans, fostering a sense of belonging that fortifies against external threats. The new movement looks to posterity for its honor and glory, but it has no recompense to offer to the present day members within our nation. The principle is philosophical, that true movements are driven by idealism and not materialism. That in our current situation as of today, and our current climate of instant gratification and consumption and self-interest are the reason for this ascetic approach is to maintain purity. Offering immediate rewards attracts opportunists, corrupting the cause from within. Instead, by appealing to the higher calling of legacy, the movement ensures that its adherents are motivated by virtue, sacrificing for the shared greater good. This philosophy elevates the collective over the individual, positing that personal fulfillment arises from contributing to something enduring. And in its nature, it counters the hedonistic currents of modernity, reminding us that nobility lies in deferred glory and planting trees under whose shade we may never sit. If a movement and if an idea should offer a large number of positions and offices that are easily accessible, the number of unworthy members admitted to membership will continue to increase. And eventually, a day will fall and come where there will be such a preponderance of political profiteers among the membership of a successful party that the combatants who bore the brunt of the battle in the earlier stages of the movement can now scarcely recognize their own party, and thus may be ejected or hamstringed by the later arrivals as unwanted, the lost. Therein lies the movement will no longer have a mission to fulfill. The reason being, and the warning is philosophical in nature. It is the idea that power corrupts when pursued for its own sake. And as we have grown all too familiar to see in the current climate, ambition often trumps principle, and that this dynamic explains the decay of once vital causes and values. The philosophy advocates vigilance against infiltration, emphasizing that a movement's vitality depends on ideological fidelity. Profiteers dilute resolve, shifting focus from revolution to administration, rendering the entity impotent against the entrenched foes. This insight draws from the eternal truth that quantity undermines quality. A small band of committed warriors achieves more than a horde of mercenaries. Let this be an example. Once both the radical left sect of the Democratic Party and the neocon sect of the Republican Party decided to collaborate with the establishment, they were no longer leaders and combatants in a populist movement, but merely policy pushers for the entrenched establishment. Thus, each movement sinks to the common political party level of the day and no longer has the power or strength to face a hostile fate or defy the possibility of martyrdom. The philosophy here is that co-optation betrays the essence of the movement and the essence of populism, which is inherently oppositional. In our present day of entrenched elites, the reason for this collaboration's peril is that it neutralizes dissent, integrating rebels into the system they ought to overhaul. Establishment alliances prioritize always stability over transformation, sapping the revolutionary spirit from the soul. And this leads to the loss of authenticity, where leaders become functionaries, incapable of the sacrifices that define true change. The message warns against compromise, advocating a philosophy of uncompromising integrity to preserve the movement's redemptive potential. Instead of fighting, the leaders on both sides fell into the habit of talking and negotiating. The new leaders on each sect soon found this approach more satisfactory because it became the less risky way of fulfilling their task of implementing their stances into the political body and national consciousness through the spiritual weapon of political rhetoric, rather than taking up a fight in which they waged their very lives and whose outcomes was uncertain and even at best could offer no real prospect of personal gain for themselves. This shift reflects a preference for pragmatism over heroism, a common trap in mature societies. Once more, we should look to our current climate, where risks are amplified by scrutiny and division. The reason lies in human nature's aversion to peril. Negotiation appeases egos and secures positions, but it dilutes impact and it turns our warriors into diplomats. We champion, our ideas champion the nobility of struggle, asserting that true progress demands willingness to hazard all. Rhetoric alone persuades the converted, but action inspires the masses. This message, in its entirety, underscores that safety breeds stagnation while daring forges destiny. When they had taken their seats in government, their adherents outside hoped and waited for miracles to happen and the policies enacted. Naturally, no such miracles came to fruition or could come to fruition. Whereupon the adherents, the supporters of this movement, soon grew impatient, tired, and frustrated because reports they read about their own deputies, their own representatives, their own politicians did not in the least come up to what had been expected and promised when they voted for those representatives at the elections. The reason was not far to seek. It was because of an unfriendly press refrained from giving a true account of what the party representatives of the people were actually doing. Yet, even as we confront these betrayals and distortions, we must not dwell only in critique. For a true nationalist vision is not merely defensive, it is affirmative, forward looking, and radiant with promise. We fight not just to preserve what remains in this nation, but rather we fight to build a renewed America worthy of our ancestors' sacrifices and our children's dreams. Let me now lay out this positive vision, the shining horizon toward which our movement strives. I ask for you to close your eyes for a minute and imagine an America reborn through the unapologetic pursuit of national greatness, a sovereign republic where the American people, our families, our communities, our workers are once again the undisputed center of every policy, every decision, every triumph. First, envision a prosperous heartland where the American dream is not a fading memory, but a living and shared reality for every hard-working family. Through America First economic policies, we unleash domestic manufacturing on a scale unseen since the post-war boom. Factories rise again in Rust Belt towns and in rural counties, producing the steel, the semiconductors, the vehicles, and the innovations that power the world. Through that, wages rise because jobs go to the American citizens first, real families, sustaining paychecks that allow a single breadwinner to support a household with dignity and virtue and honor. Alongside this, energy dominance returns in full force with abundant, affordable oil, natural gas, and clean coal flowing freely, slashing costs for heating, fueling industries, and lowering prices at the pump, as well as in our local grocery stores. Trillions in reshaped investments flood back from abroad, creating a virtuous cycle of growth where prosperity is measured not in abstract GDP figures, but in stronger bank accounts, fuller pantries, and brighter futures for our children. In this renewed America, families are once again the cornerstone, the sacred foundation of our civilization. We stop once and for all punishing marriage and parenthood through punitive taxes and welfare traps. And in its place, we reward them with tax relief that makes raising children affordable once more. We also reaffirm that our policies champion the married mother, father, and their children as the ideal, providing incentives for stable homes where values are instilled, faith is nurtured, and character is forged. Moreover, parents reclaim authority over education. Schools teach unvarnished American history and civics rooted in our founding principles, as well as skills, real life skills for self reliance rather than divisive ideologies. Looking more into the future, our communities thrive as faith based organizations, local charities, and voluntary associations step forward to support the vulnerable without the heavy hand of distant bureaucrats dictating the terms. And the result of all of these policies and more implemented into the rhetoric and the body politic of the United States of America, in the conscious and in the minds of the citizens of this great land, we will see stronger marriages, lower crime rates, healthier children, and a society where intergenerational bonds transmit resilience and optimism from one generation to the next. Picture safe, cohesive communities where neighbors know and trust one another, bound by the shared language, customs, and love of this country, where our borders are secure, not as fortresses of fear, but as guardians of national integrity, allowing controlled, merit based immigration that enriches without overwhelming our institutions, our first responders, and our neighborhoods in this nation. Once more, English flourishes as our unifying tongue, enabling every citizen to participate fully in the national conversation. By enacting these policies and ensuring the future of the American man and woman across this land with America First policies and the ideas that spur from putting the American citizens at the forefront of all of our political endeavors, crime will plummet as law enforcement becomes empowered. Cartels are dismantled and eradicated, and justice is conducted in a manner that upholds swift and fair trials and virtues that cannot be shaken by intimidation factors. Moreover, our cities and towns will reclaim their beauty and vitality. That infrastructure will be rebuilt with American steel and American labor. Parks and public spaces alive with families and congregations, enjoying the beauty that this land has to offer, enjoying the enriching memories of participating in the shared love, hope, and progress of this nation altogether. And let it be known that this safety shall remain in our schooling systems, and it shall go throughout the land for all areas and aspects of our society that have slowly been eroded away or diluted from its importance due to the significance of safety risk that arise for our American people. We no longer shall live in fear in our own homes, but rather we shall take back our homes. And let this be echoed for the whole world to hear. On the global stage, America stands as the unchallenged leader throughout, and through endless entanglements of moral crusades, but through peace, through strength. One of the reasons is that our military is rebuilt to unrivaled excellence, deterring aggression and ensuring no rival dares to challenge our interests. All of our alliances for the United States shall, from this moment forth, be fair, where our partners bear their burdens, contributing meaningfully, so America no longer subsidizes to defense of the world. And our trade deals serve American workers first, protecting against predatory practices while opening markets for our goods and services. Diplomacy in itself is bold and transactional, securing historical peaces, ending conflicts that drain our blood and treasure, and advancing deals that put American prosperity and security ahead of abstract globalism. We export not just products in the sense, but the example of a free, sovereign, self-governing people thriving under their own God-given rights. This vision, the one that I have just shared with you, is rooted in our enduring strengths, the innovative spirit of free enterprise, the moral courage drawn from faith and family, and the resolve of patriots, of those who believe in the success and the victory for the nation, and those living in it, who answer the call when freedom is threatened. Let this thus be the true dawn of the golden age, defined by common sense and pragmatism, where government is limited but is effective, where power returns to families, communities, and states, and where the nation emerges stronger, richer, and more united than ever. We look to this challenge and we look to posterity, not with dread, but with a sense of hope and purpose. For our grandchildren will inherit a country of opportunity and abundance, where hard work is cherished, championed, and rewarded. Faith is free, families flourish, participate in the American dream, and America itself remains that shining beacon, one that is not imposed on others, but admired for its example set. This is the positive destiny nationalism promises, of what America first promises. Not one that is merely a retreat into isolation, but one that is ascent into a renewed greatness. So, my fellow Americans, the path forward is clear. We have grasped the true meaning of history. We have awakened to the necessity of nationalism in this dark hour, and we have seen the perils of compromise and corruption up close. Therefore, let us embrace this affirmative vision with unwavering commitment and an unshakable strength. Let us build, not just defend, and let us renew, not merely preserve. For together, through sacrifice today and fidelity to our principles, we will and we shall forge an America that is great again and greater still for generations yet unborn. And to that I say, rise, my fellow Americans, patriots of this great land, for the future awaits our making. And it is time for us to take the first step. What is stopping us? God bless you all. God bless the United States of America. God bless the patriots throughout the land. And God bless those who are done watching their homeland die by 1,000 cuts. And will give everything to the fight in order to ensure that many years from now, when we are old and we are falling down, when our generation comes to an end, and when those who walked the earth when we were alive, that we stand here and we say that the heroism within us was awoken. And it was awoken not for our own gains of glory, not for our own gains of victory or for triumph, but for the enduring principles that what our founding fathers gave to us in 1776 was something that would be ensured for the future generations of this nation, not something that can be opposed by those who do not participate in these shared ideals to make us feel like we are the villains in this saga, but rather that we are the true heroes. We are the true ones who are upholding what it means to be a champion of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For we know the establishment is ones who do not believe in those same principles that they tout on the regular basis. It must be known that both sides of the aisle preach the same ideas to the public, but it is the public who is only able to see clearly what the fundamental principles and what the fundamental ideas of America truly are through its application within the government and the bureaucracy itself. Therefore, it rests upon us. It rests upon the people of this nation, of those who still have level heads and an idea and concept of reality. They understand the principles and the values that ensured the rights and liberties that we have today. And they believe that both sides of the aisle are participating in the same game, but with different strategies. So it rests upon us to be the ones who are able to re-implement these values and these truths that we hold to be self-evident. It rests upon us to be the ones who take a stand against the encroachment on our liberties. It does not matter if you are on the left or you are on the right. It does not matter if you believe in X, Y, or Z. What matters is if you believe in the American dream. What matters is if you believe in the idea that America that you once knew can be restored and will be restored, with the vital importance of each and every one of us standing arm in arm and fighting in the ballot, fighting in the ideological chambers, and fighting in our schooling systems to implement these policies and these ideals that have been cherished and have been passed down from generation to generation throughout the history of this nation, and will thus propel our children, those who are already born now and those who will be born in the future, a concrete framework and foundation for creating citizens that will contribute positively to our society, both in the political, philosophical, medical, scientific, mathematical, engineering, whatever area or field that they wish to conquer. We shall rise as those who are victorious, as winners, as a people who look at what we have accomplished and know that there is still more to achieve. That is the America I envision. Not a victim America, but a champion America. So what is stopping us?